for me, how's it hanging? How's it happen? You guys know this is Kevin from the Chord Progression Podcast. The podcast from Some Magazine describes as the one that initiates profound discussions with rock and metal artists. Line fans cover the creative workflow of their favorite musicians and understand the factors that make the band succeed or fall from fame. We are all sponsored by Dark Fusion Systems, the best for your custom computing needs. Get $100 off your entire bill. Code CPPod at darkfusionsystems.com. Link to the podcast below. So now it's time for a feature presentation. A band that's been around for 20 years, celebrating 20 years by going on a tour called the 3 Cheers for 20 Years Tour, and a brand new album coming out that fits so well with that pop punk emo vibes. It's the guys in Mayday Parade. We have Brooks here with us, not only talking about the band's new album, Sweet, we're talking about the writing process the band takes on this album specifically. Beyond that, though, reflecting back on 20 years in music, what's changed, how's that impacted Mayday Parade, and just the beauty that is music and art all coming together on this album. You guys ready? Let's go! Yeah. Well, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, listeners of the Chord Progression Podcast. This band right here has been around for 20 years at this point. 20 years of absolutely making you get in your feels, really get emotional with everything, connect with your inner self, but at the same time, create some great pop, punk, and emo anthems that we've been singing for almost 18, 19 years at this point. And they've got a brand album called Sweet coming out on April 18th. They're also going to be going out on tour for the 3 Cheers for 20 Years tour. So, you know what? Let's have enough of this intro. Let's have enough of this. Let's just get right into it. Please welcome Brooks from Mayday Parade to the podcast. So, Brooks, welcome to the Chord Progression Podcast.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Kevin.
Thanks for being on, man. How is everything going in your world right now? Of course, right before the album drops and right before the tour starts. I mean, it's a lot coming up, but it sounds to be exciting, right?
Yeah, of course. So we've been doing it for a long time, and we're used to doing the whole gear up, set up, record music and get ready for a long haul on the road, and that's what we've got coming up for the next bit of this year, and even continuing into next year. So it's exciting, especially because we've had a lot of time at home to be able to be with family and connect that way, and then we go out and we do our work.
Well, that's got to be nice too, especially as time goes on. And that's something I've heard from a lot of other artists too, is of course, advancing in your career years, just of course, being 20 years of band. That's something that not a lot of artists ever get to say that they've done. So the fact that you guys have done it and done it consistently is something that's incredible. But being able to take a step back over the past year or so, spend time with your family, connect with everybody around there, it has to not only energize you in another way, but also just prepare you to go out on the road and make sure all those relationships and those feelings that you have from being at home are strong, intact, and then you go out on the road and just continue building up on what is Mayday Parade and building up on what is your family as well.
Right. And that's something, like I said, we're no strangers to it, and we try to balance it, and we really enjoy what we're doing, and that's why we're still doing it,
Yeah, if you didn't enjoy doing it, then what's the point of doing it anymore? Unless it's, this is the only way there is to make money in the world, but there's always plenty of places. You're some of the lucky few that get to go out and play music and create moments for so many people and just be able to do it and support your family and support what you love. So to say, man, I guess gotta say, man, you're one hell of a lucky guy.
Yeah. Well, we know it, and I feel like we try to be very humble about things. When I speak with lots of people who play music in general, who are not professionals per se, and that's always that reminder, of where we are, especially when you're talking to people and you're trying to give a little bit of advice of where they might be trying to go and where they are currently in their journey.
Oh, that's something that I don't think a lot of people end up even thinking about or realizing, no matter where they are in life or whatever kind of advice they're getting, because you never know exactly what that other person's position is compared to yours. You might be taking it from a completely different perspective that they don't understand. But you've been able to realize that when talking with other musicians who don't have it as their full profession, be able to take a step back and realize that when giving advice or talking with them, it allows you to connect with them on a deeper level and, again, create those moments that when people look back at it, they see how impactful not only your advice was, how impactful Mayday Parade has been in their lives, but at the exact same time, how impactful just that pure human connection that can be caused by something beautiful like music truly is.
Right. Yeah. That's, I enjoy it. I enjoy, speaking, talking, working with other people, who are in music. Cause at this point, I've been playing for 27 years. So I feel like there's like almost like a duty or this thing that's inside of me of like, oh, well, first I enjoy the conversation, but then two, I feel like it's almost like my duty to like save some people some things once in a while and kind of be like, hey, like, if you're not thinking about this, maybe you should be thinking about that because I wish somebody told me 10 years earlier. And a lot of that has to do with just playing music or writing music or whatever it is, not necessarily life advice overall.
Yeah, but at the exact same time, if you have to give a piece of life advice, just given from where your perspective is, being a musician, being in a band for over 20 years, being out on the road consistently, it's something that people are going to have to be used to if they want to achieve that exact same kind of lifestyle or achieve that goal of having a longevity in the music career as a profession like you've had. But being able just to converse with them and be able to give those little pieces of, I wish I would have known this 10 years earlier, but I get a chance to deliver that to you now. It's something that just creates a community around the music industry, and it creates a community around musicians that allows them to foster their goals, foster their dreams, and see where they can take them. Because the more music we have in the world, the more art we have in the world, the more beautiful the world becomes. When it's taken away from us, the world just becomes a bland piece of, I don't know, just flat nothing, like a gray even. It's just, there's no color to it. There's no vibrance to it. There's no amplification of emotion to it. So the more you're able to pass on knowledge like that to so many people, so many aspiring artists, so we have the best chance to get the most amount of art possible out there in the world, that's just a beautiful thing that we have going on.
Yeah, I think that's great because there's a lot of access, there's easy access to music specifically now. And a lot of other things, right? That, whether that's anything that you digest on the internet, right? Mm-hmm. Through the internet. So we're living in a good age for that. It's a bummer people don't buy albums so much anymore for the musician, but mm-hmm. for the listener, it's never been better because there's just constant feed of new art coming out.
It is great for the listener to have that constant feed of new art. I do wish that there was more money that was in delivering from those streaming services going to the artists. I think a lot of us do, just based on the fact that you're the ones that are making the art. You're the ones that are creating this. You should get more than, what is it, like a 0.003% like of a cent per stream of a song. Like that just doesn't make any sense. If you bought an album, it's, you have that music, but by the time you will play that, you have to play it so many times in order to just kind of reach to that point where that's what it was going to be worth. And for artists like if you buy an album, it's very rare that you might get an album at play to get to that point as an individual listener. I'm thinking maybe I've got like 7 or 8 songs my whole entire life that I would have completely run through enough so that it's like, okay, what I gave for it versus what I'm getting back, completely different story. But when I think about this too, you guys have been a band for over 20 years and you've seen this massive change in the music industry from when you first started as Mayday Parade to now, when back then, again, the iPod was a very prominent thing. Selling MP3s online was a very prominent thing via iTunes. People, of course, were, trying to get all the illegal song MP3 downloads from LimeWire and completely destroying their computers or their parents' computers with any kind of virus that was possible. And the main delivery method was still legacy radio, or at that point in time, MySpace. But now it's completely changed. So reflecting over 20 years, how have you seen this change not only as a positive for the music industry, but maybe something that has to still be improved on at this point?
I think there's a lot to it, in 20 years is a long time, technology moves pretty quick, right? So when we were starting, CDs were still a big thing, and if I remember correctly, vinyl really was not back around. It wasn't it wasn't popular again yet. The internet was in full swing when it came to, maybe full swing is Instagram, right? TikTok, but the whole building blocks of that with MySpace and Pure Volume
Mm-hmm.
were there for music. It worked very well for getting your music out. But people were still buying CDs. That was good for us because we were able to go out and we were able to basically solicit ourselves at Warped Tour, other venues, and like, you know, get people to purchase a EP for $5, you know, and that helped a ton. But it had already been dwindling, you know what I mean? It had been for a decade at least prior to us. So yeah, about a decade, right? A little
Yeah.
less maybe. Where people were, yeah, starting. What year was Napster, right? Like, and LimeWire, like you said, like that's where things really changed, right? But we weren't professional musicians when that came on the scene, right? That kind of changed things towards like, oh, well, people can just grab music online. That turned into streaming services, and you know, the promotion of yourself online has never been stronger, right? But had always been a part of our career. It's just the physical format changed, right? Yeah, but because of the physical format changing to a digital thing almost strictly, the way that you create music and get ready to put it out and deliver it changed. And we've seen people do all sorts of things, from like just doing singles once in a while, or and not even releasing albums, to people still trying to do albums but then waterfalling the release, you know. And I think people are still trying to feel out what's the most effective method for rolling out music these days, given the new landscape of, you know, your Spotify and Apple Music and the others, right? And we're trying to navigate that as well, and just kind of figure out what works best. It's no different though than like, it's funny how, like, you know, songs used to be roughly around 2 minutes 30 seconds because it fit on a 45 vinyl, you know, that way. And so that dictated the way that people wrote music, right? And now again, it's being dictated by a different sort of influence or platform instead of a format. It's kind of the same thing, I suppose. We could call it a format, right? Whereas like some people are writing music now where you want to use it in shorts, you know, or you know, on TikTok, right? Like there's songs that are literally written for TikTok now, and they know that it's not going to be something that's going to be used for, like, say, an album, or at least they're not overly worried about it. Their main goal is to make it something that somebody's going to use over thousands of videos on TikTok or Instagram, and then maybe that makes it popular, but it's on your album too. You know, it's interesting, right? How these things dictate what we do creatively, and I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing, because what's interesting about it is that it gives you a different reason, a different angle to create from a different point of view, or for a different reason, you know, and that's cool. That's art in itself.
I would have to agree with that, especially I had a conversation with Aaron Nordstrom from Gemini Syndrome, and he was talking about how in music there's only a finite amount of notes that you can play, and it's not that, you know, you only have this amount, but what can you do with that amount? So we were talking about with having songs back in, you know, when vinyl was the only real format for delivery of music, or the most popular delivery of music format, 2 minutes and 30 seconds, because it fit on there. It dictated what people, the confined people, were put into, but what could they do in that specific structured space that they could expand on and be creative to create something that's great. Then going into, you know, when you get cassettes and CDs and MP3s, now it's a different format because more you have freedom of, you know, overall time. So it's more of a structure of the song that was going to be dictating what people are going to primarily do. Now with streaming, people are going for shorter songs because that's what's getting more plays. That's what's getting more focus. Or like you said, going on TikTok and creating songs specifically for that space, for that specific short space, that specific short period to be used for that only. And it's completely changed up every step away. It's throughout history. We've seen that happen, and people get creative with it. That's the beauty of music. And it's great to hear from your perspective too, kind of seeing how things have changed, because when you guys started out, once again, as Mayday Parade 2005, yes, Napster had already been a thing. You guys were already in the full-on internet age, but compared to where you were with MySpace being a huge form of delivery, and with MP3s and audio downloads being the main form of delivery as well for actual hard copy, or I would say like softer hard copies of songs, now it's all streaming. The format of the day is like TikTok, Instagram, SoundCloud. All the way that this is put out to people is different. And for you guys to be able to not only see that, but then go through all the steps to see how this has changed, it helps get an understanding of how far you've come as artists, but also gets newer artists to see that things are going to change up no matter what. You always have to be ready for the next thing in terms of your music delivery or music promotion. But your music, of course, still going to have to be you at the core, and still going to have to be true to its art form, because you can have the best promotion ever. You can have the best look ever. But if the song and the music that you're creating isn't there, then everything kind of crumbles for it, because that's where the core of the whole entire artist experience comes from.
Right. Yeah. It's just interesting, right? How how much it dictates everything. And you're right. Like it does. Like it dictates how you're going to write through from your second chorus to your last chorus, right? Like all those things. It's crazy. I wish things actually went back to like a shorter song. And I think they are. I think they are doing that, I know when I'm writing, I'm like, man, do I really got to write a bridge right now? Like, I don't want to write a bridge right now. I feel like I just want to get back to that last chorus, and, but it's funny. Yeah. How that changes everything.
Again, it changes everything, but allows you to be creative in a different aspect, because when you guys wrote A Lesson Romantics in 2007, it's not going to be the same way that you write Sweet in 2025. There's going to be massive differences there based on where you were as musicians, your abilities as musicians, from your influences, because over the course of 18 years, of course, influences are going to change. What interests you are going to change. The new music that's coming out there is going to inspire you to try something different. The popular formats of the day are going to get you thinking about, maybe we can try this, or maybe let's try this, if this fits with what we're actually going for and what fits with our own artistic drive. Beyond that, though, it just allows for so much more introspective to say, let's try this. Let's try that. Let's not maybe do the thing that we did that time, because if we go back and write the same way we did in 2007, then we're going to get the exact same sound we got in 2007. And that might not be a sound that we are resonating with today, given our mindset, given our growth, and just given where we want to go with our music in general.
Yeah, because we're not going to do a key change. I don't think we're going to do the Jersey like whole step lift, right? Or like the anywhere but here lift, or I don't know. What were we thinking when we did that anyway? Did the song really need that extra whole step movement? I think it would feel really weird if you didn't do it these days, Sometimes I joke about like, hey, like maybe halfway joke. I don't know. I'm kind of serious. Like, what if we don't go up the whole step live? Like, do we need to do that key change, or could we just play through, But I guess it is. Yeah, it's interesting. Like, no, people are not really doing a lot of key changes. I did hear a song I've had that thought for a long time, but I did notice there was a song the other day that I listened to that had a key change. This was in popular country music, right? Mm-hmm. Like pop country. But I was like, oh, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it's coming back. Maybe people are doing the key change again.
Maybe it's come back, or maybe it's come back to just a specific genre that is pop country, because I haven't heard really any key changes in a long time in anything rock or metal related. But everything like that is cyclical. It's just like fashion, where there are things that go out of style, there's things that come back in out of nowhere, or things that just get super popular that you never expected to get popular. I take a look at 2023. If you would have told me back in like 2018 that what Sleep Token was doing was going to become one of the biggest things in, heavy music in the 2020s, I would have looked and been like, wait, really? That's not going to happen. Or how hardcore is taken off because of what, bands like Knocked Loose, Kubla Khan, Alpha Wolf are doing. And it's just like that always stayed like in an underground scene, but now it popped up. So you never know exactly what people are going to end up just clamping onto, taking to. But just like fashion, things come back in because there's just a refresh of it, or maybe there's just a new revelation behind it. Like there could be with the key change. There could be with just some different progressions that were more popular in the 90s and early 2000s that we haven't seen. So you never know what might happen. But as artists, you have the ability to play around with that, and you never know what might happen. Plus, if you're doing these songs live, you can make those changes on the fly in a live setting, and the song can have a completely different experience for the listener or for the, attendee at that show. I've seen it happen plenty of times before, and it's one of my main reasons I love going to shows, because I never know exactly what that artist is going to do with that song. What's going to be the different piece about it? Is it going to be heavier? Is it going to be lighter? Is it going to be drawn out? Are they going to add an extra chorus on there to really hit on that emotional impact? I don't know, but the ability is there, and that's one of the beauties of music too.
For sure. Yeah. I will tell you, when I'm playing live, like I have to go back, listen to the record, especially when we get ready for rehearsals, and I have to go, how did I play that exactly? Right. And now this will happen for two things. This will happen for songs maybe that we haven't played for years. Right. And I need to go back and reference. This will also happen accidentally for a song like, say, 3 Cheers for 5 Years, or like Hate to Be You, when you find out what the song's about, right? Like where I go back and I listen to what I played on a record and I go, oh, I don't play it like that live. And now the notes are there for the most part, like the audience, I don't think would hear the difference. But being it, you go, oh, I picked this pattern, not that pattern. And I go, maybe I should change that. What happens is you get used to playing a certain song so many times over so many years that it like almost slowly evolves into this slightly different thing than what was recorded on a record. Not enough that you would like, if I play both riffs, you would immediately go, oh, that song. But when being them, they are different.
I actually had a conversation, something like that, I think it was 2 years ago, in 2023, with the Ferris brothers and Woe Is Me, and I think it was Corey was talking about how trying to like relearn songs, he listened to me, he's like, I don't know how I used to play these live, and then would go back and watch YouTube videos of kids doing walkthroughs and playthroughs of his songs, and he's like, okay, that's how I did it, and then realized, wait a minute, that's how I did it live the last time, and it was something very similar where you play both those riffs, it's going to sound similar to that, if you play it one for me one day and one for me the next day, I'm not going to tell the difference. But if you play them back to back, you're going to instantly be able to tell. But it's still going to create that experience of the song that was created that has that piece that so many people connect with. Beyond that, though, man, it can create a whole different live experience, but more of an amplified, just hits harder with whatever's going on at that show, whatever's going on with that tour, whatever's going on with the crowd at that moment. You never know exactly how that crowd's interact, but if you're able to just make that little switch and play the song maybe just a little bit heavier, maybe a little bit lighter, a little bit faster, you can change that crowd energy into something that is going to take over, but take over for the positive, where people are going to leave that show and all they're going to think about is, man, I don't care if I have to get, up for work early tomorrow. I'm not going to have a lot of sleep. Enough sleep was not worth missing that show.
Right. Like Kids in Love is a song that we do that I feel is so much more poppy sounding on the record. And live has this, like, it's way more rocked out. Like, there's just so much more like spice put on the guitars, just like bends and like, I don't know, like you put the gain up a little bit more and just make it feel more like a rock song, which it is, but it's more so live. And then you think to yourself, I wonder how we would have tracked this in the studio had we played this song live before going into the session. And I'm not sure it would have been the better move. Sometimes these things are like their own animal, like what you do on CD is one thing and what you do live is another. I won't say, I don't think it's by any means to the point where people hear it live and go, this doesn't really feel like the record, but it's enough that it raises the bar in a room and gets excitement.
That might be the best way to describe it too. It's enough to raise the bar to bring up the excitement in the room, bring up the excitement in the crowd. And I even thought about that too, if some of these artists that play these songs, especially when they record them and then maybe they play them live afterwards, what would happen if they would have done the flip side of that? Would the record had come out that way and what was recorded? Who knows? But the beauty of that is you have then, I would say 2 slight variations of a song that are going to absolutely impact people, whether they hear it, in their car, they're streaming it, they put in the CD, or like me, you still use your old iPod, or you're going to go and see someone play live and have that experience. It's just going to amplify it every step of the way. I never even thought about
Yeah.
that piece of it, but that's an even incredible piece that I'm just going to start thinking, man, every artist every new album I listen to, every artist I see live, trying to think, what would that have been like had it been flipped if they played that live first before they recorded it?
Well, think about it like this too. There was a time before us, maybe, I don't know, maybe this was crept even into the 80s, possibly. I would say, but certainly before the 80s, where bands could go out on a new song and they could go tour on a new song that has not been recorded yet. So they can play this, they would play songs. Certainly bands like Led Zeppelin would do it. Certainly bands like The Doors would do it, where you could go out, play these songs, work on them live, get them in the pocket, get it where everybody's like really locked in on this track. They get to test it in a room full of people and nobody's videoing it and putting it online, right? And then they can go into the studio after really honing and whittling and create the song that they have vibed out completely on a live stage in front of an audience.
I mean, that's similar to like what comedians do still, where when they go out on tour, it's just before they record a special, they're trying out these different bits, they're trying out their act, and they're trying to restrict as much cell phone usage and video usage as possible because you never know exactly how these jokes are going to land. They're trying to work them up because how else are you going to be able to figure out how they work unless they're in a live setting? Unfortunately,
Right.
Music right now, we don't have that ability just based on the fact that everyone's taking videos. If there's going to be a new song, people are going to take a video of it. And if the song ends up being like, let's just say people are taking a video of a song that's brand new, you're trying to workshop it throughout a live set, and someone's just not taking to it. Now they can put up online, they're calling it a dud, and it's just influenced everybody to think the same way while you're still trying to workshop it. Or on the other side, someone videos it and says it's one of the greatest songs ever, and now you're constantly getting hounded while on tour. You got to put this out and record, and you got to record this, while you're still trying to work on it and see if it's actually going to work out as a song for Mayday Parade or any other band in that point in general.
Right. Yeah. And we can't do it, or at least I can't think of a time where we have done that. I don't think we have, but I could be wrong. It's been a lot of years.
I'll say I can't even see it happening, from even when I was, even by the time, but even before I was born in 1994, like I can't even see it happening then or even just beforehand. I can't see it happening after because, again, we've all lived it. You've lived it as a musician, and that hasn't been a thing. No band's been able to really do something like that, so we're probably never going to see that unless you're going to be able to, like, compress people's phones in the pouches like they would at a Tool show.
Right. And I guess I am actually kind of wrong about that because our EP would have been done that way. Okay. Like our Tales Told by Dead Friends, right? We were playing those songs live in a room before that was recorded. Certainly some of those, or the majority of those songs, and possibly some of A Lesson. But certainly the EP was, we were doing local shows, but that's a little bit different, right?
Yeah, it's a little bit different, especially when you're talking about, you brought up Led Zeppelin and The Doors as examples from, the 70s that could have done something like that. Those bands were in their heyday. They were massively popular at the time, and they could have still pulled off something like this. Where bands now, if you have any sort of popularity and you're going out on tour, people are going to be recording you left and right because that's just what happens now. People want to put the videos online. I'm not blaming them for it because it's a cool piece to, be able to have, but it does take away from that moment of being able to workshop a new song live before recording it.
Yeah. Yeah. It's I wish we could. We've talked about it.
I'll say you never know. Maybe you guys can be like the pioneers in trying to bring something like that back, especially for more established bands. It could very well happen. You never know.
No, yeah, you don't, because everything changes,
Yeah, by this time, 2-3 years down the line, it could be completely different. It probably will be completely different by the time 2027, 2028 hits. And now I'm saying those numbers. I'm just like, oh my God, we're getting close to those. Yeah. Shoot.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Keeps ticking. Right.
Time keeps ticking, but you guys have been a band for 20 years. They're going to keep going on, in a brand new album called Sweet coming out on, of course, April 18th, 2025. I got to ask about the album, though, because I want to get more people psyched about it. When it came to writing this album, your 8th album overall, is it 8? 1, 2, 3, 4,
Yeah.
5, 6. Yep, I had to count again. I'm like, I counted this earlier today, but don't want to mess this up. When it came to writing Sweet as a group, as a band, as a collective, what was that process like, especially, again, the 8th overall and 20 years into this?
We've for a long time we've operated in a way where everybody writes in this band, and we're at home, usually when we can get our ideas out easy in our home studios and you know have time to be as creative as possible. The road's difficult for it, although I will write on the road, especially on an idea that's fresh. But we're all working on music, and we're all still doing it even currently right now. And those songs get pretty hammered out, pretty worked out individually. A lot of times I will reach out, to some of the other guys and be like, hey, like, do you want to work on something? And we're all in separate cities, so I'm doing it over Zoom, and it's a bit difficult to do it that way. Uh, but we're all writing music and in a sense, basically competing for the best songs, to put them on the table and end up with hopefully like 20 to 30 songs that we can go through and figure out the best, as a group. And then if certain songs need changes or work done, we will hash those out in the studio a bit. But a lot of that, there's certainly a pre-pro element to the studio sessions where we come in, we listen to all these songs, and we're talking about them, figuring out what is it that we could make better, or are some songs just great as they are and everybody's cool, ready to go, like we've got to record that one, but we're like, just kind of going through and figuring out the best of the best and putting them on an album, and that's the same process we've been doing for a while. We're still doing now, and it works really well. It seemingly, at least. I think it's hard to know, like we've been talking about, where you just don't know how people are going to react to music. We can just only have our own bar, right, in the studio, our standard for what we're doing, along with the producers, and create something hopefully that the masses enjoy.
That's a way of writing music that I remember really became popular, of course, because it had to in the pandemic, working in different cities over Zoom and home studios. But you guys, it sounds like it took, you continue to do that, but it's a way that you've done it for quite a while. And it's a different direction where it allows you to work together, but also compete with each other, to have those creative moments, to have those creative juices flowing. And then you get an amalgamation of songs where, okay, what's going to work, what's best. And then you can also collaborate from that standpoint, because someone might have an idea that takes that one song that was good and makes it completely great, that maybe whoever wrote it was just missing out on that one standpoint, because again, the mindset might have just not been there. So that's the beauty of being able to do this, not only separately in your home studios, but while also working over Zoom. But then when you get together to record this stuff and work on this, you have that moment that's there. That's a beautiful thing. And again, why fix it? Why fix if it ain't broken? You guys have been making music for 20 years. You guys have been doing this for quite some time, and have had a great amount of success doing it. So keep rolling with it, keep going with it, because the only way it's going to get better is if you keep practicing at it. And look, this is the outcome right here. You guys have made 8 albums. You're going on a tour celebrating 20 years. Clearly, your writing process is going in the right direction.
Yeah, and I always wish that we would switch things up a little bit. But you're right. Like, if it's not broke, don't fix it. But I do wish that, like, we would go and maybe even get, like, there was a time where we would go rent like a house, before we go in the studio and spend a month together and write that way. That's something I do kind of miss, but I miss it. In theory, I enjoy doing that, but in practicality, it never seemed to give us as many great ideas as we're getting in, for the last, like the more like the later era of our career. And I think that you just get more on the table, more ideas when you're at home and individuals are all working, as opposed to getting in a group and trying to hone in on a couple ideas as a group. It's just more productive.
And that's just the way it works for you. And I love the fact that you've been able to take a step back and say, hey, when we used to, have a chance to be able to get in a house together for a month and work on this, here were the pros of it, but here were the cons of it as well, of what didn't work for us. Now when we're at home, yeah, we wish we still kind of had that, but we're being more productive with it. So you're able to take a look at that and reflect on that to see what's going to work out best. So you're not fixing it because it ain't broken. But if you're looking for maybe what could make this even better, you're able to actually use it in more of an analytical way for your own selves, for your own creativity, to figure out how this is going to work best for you guys in Mayday Parade, given, again, what you've been through as a band over 20 years, where you're currently at in life, and when it comes to obligations as well, because the obligations you have in life in 2025 are massively different than what you had back in 2005. And that not only goes for you and for the rest of the members of the band, but for everybody that was, alive in 2005 that is still alive today.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. It's and it's a hard thing to quantify too, because given certain singles have done better than others, and that is kind of our bar when we look at songs like Jamie All Over or Miserable at Best, or you look at Terrible Things, or you look at 3 Cheers for 5 Years, Oh Well, what's that, Piece of Your Heart. Those are kind of where we try to like look at our bar of success. I'd like to think that we've gotten close with a couple, recently, but that it's such a hard thing to quantify sometimes.
It is a hard thing to quantify as time goes on, because the audience changes, the audience perceptions changes, their taste change, so everything is changing around there. What you guys are trying to go for changes, and how it's quantified over the course of time. The metrics that people are focusing in on because of the delivery methods has changed. Like when Jamie All Over came out, there was no streaming services really, so Spotify wasn't there to be that beacon of, we're looking at this for streams, we're looking at YouTube fully for music video plays. Even though YouTube was out then, it was 2006, 2007. This was YouTube still in its infancy stage. So now it's completely different. And the numbers, it feels like, especially for a lot of artists, including yourself as well, are a lot more accessible. And you also don't want to fall into the trap of trying to create a song that's going to do better numbers than a specific song that you have on the, we're going to pick, let's just pick Jamie Oliver. Have a song that you want to do better than Jamie Oliver did in this first, month or 2 months, because then you're just trying to create something that's going to hit on, get those streams, get the plays, maybe not have the overall concrete structure that is a full-on Mayday Parade song. So it's kind of got to find that balance of, we want to be able to, potentially better ourselves every step of the way with every single song, but we got to make sure the song quality is what we want it to be and is truly coming from us, where everybody in the band is all in on that song, and not just like, well, we're doing this for, like, again, when we talk about those TikTok songs that are just there for the specific purpose of being popular on that platform.
Right. And I don't think we've ever tried to approach a track that way. Although I will say, in my own songwriting, and I'm not saying that like it's been that the approach has worked better. The genre that we're in isn't always that way. Right. And it's an interesting thing to like, it feels like a super well-rounded idea, and whether that's better or worse, I'm not sure, like for the genre, but then also knowing that a lot of the music that we had created and the genre creates is not super on the nose lyrically, or straight to the point lyrically, or completely a cohesive idea that somebody can walk away with, like saying that there's a definite story to what's being told here. There's a lot of room for interpretation, and I guess I don't really know exactly where I'm going with that, besides the fact that when you're target writing towards a very specific thing. We haven't quite done it that way, but I do very much enjoy like a well thought out story in song.
I think a lot of people enjoy that too, because when you think of a well thought out story, whether it's going to be delivered straightforward directly on the nose to you, more abstract, or, a little bit more of that, we're going to hold your hand through the emotions of it. We're going to guide you through it in a metaphorical sense. People really get behind that and really dive into it, especially in the genre that you guys sit in primarily. That is something that so many people connect with, because they take those stories, they take those lyrics, whether they're direct or more metaphorical, even more abstract, and they're able to put themselves in those situations mentally, put their own stories in there, put their own experiences in there, and guide themselves through it to relive it, to have that impact be felt once again. And that's where, again, some of these most beautiful songs, some of these most popular songs come from, but it's because they come from that genuine place of you're trying to make something that's going to be an impactful thing for you guys writing it. And the fact that people connect with it is just a huge, huge, huge bonus beyond it. And it's going from the full-on content of the song being strong and not based on, we need this specific sound here, this specific piece in here, so it gets popular on streaming services or popular on TikTok or Spotify. I try and bring this up because I don't want to see new artists fall into the fact of you always have to look at every single number so scientifically that you're always trying to beat it, and then you're taking out creativity from what you're doing, and now you're just doing it by a kind of paint by number style, music writing. I don't want to see that, because then we lose out on some of the greatest music that's out there. I don't want to see that happen in the future.
Well, I don't think you have to overly worry about it, only because there's always another one to take your place. So if you're not doing it, somebody else will do that. And there's, like we talked about before, an overabundance in a good way of new music that's coming out. And somebody is going to be doing what you like, they're out there. Like, now maybe your favorite band stops doing what you like, right? Maybe they go a different path, and that's fine too. But there's always another artist or group coming out, that is going to not do paint by numbers, that's going to give you that new feeling that maybe hasn't been done before, or just simply is going to refuse to do the typical, so it's funny as we move further and further into like a digitally controlled or dictated world. I think there will always be that inverse side of artists who go against that, and I think I'll be very interested to see how it all plays out, through time. But I think when you look at like 90s rock, that was exactly what happened. You had a overwhelming majority of overproduced pop driven music that took a turn, and even the mainstream culture took a turn away from it for a while because of it, right? And these things come in waves. So I think it's just always going to be like this, cycling, and there's always, and even if it's not mainstream, there's always going to be somebody doing it, and you can always find that.
Perfectly said, I think, honestly, because that just allows us as music fans and people that are going to be creating music, just anybody that's a lover of music, of you never know what's going to come next. But the fact that we have so many people being able to make music, and so many people being able to try this stuff out, that beautiful space is just going to continue to grow. And maybe in a couple of years, we're seeing heavy music have a huge resurgence now. Maybe that amplifies back up, or maybe we're going to see resurgence of other genres that we haven't seen in a while come back due to just maybe changing culture, just changing wants of a generation. It very well could happen. It's happened all throughout history. It all depends upon when, but we never know exactly when that's going to happen. One question I love to ask artists, especially when they have new music coming out, is something like this. We know the singles that are out on Sweet already. We know what they sound like. We can listen to them. But right before the album comes out, there's a number of songs that we haven't listened to yet. So, Brooks, out of the non-singles on Sweet, which is the song
Right.
that you're most excited for people to check out when the album releases, and why?
Well, I have to like look at it again, honestly, because I didn't refresh my memory on it, the track listing. But biasedly, uh one of the songs that I had written was Natural. And that's a biased take, but I think it's a little bit different feel. And it falls right in line with what we do, but or not right in line, it fits within our envelope, but I'm very excited for that one. But yeah, so yeah, I guess that would be my answer.
I'm gonna say it's a good pick. I mean, I'm just gonna take your word for it too, especially if you're the one who wrote it. But if it's gonna fit in the pocket of what you guys are normally used to, but also a little bit different, that's kind of the beautiful part about it. It's gonna sound like and feel like a Mayday Parade song, but you're not exactly sure how it's going to. It's just going to,
Right.
but it's gonna be an experience once you listen to it. So when Sweet comes out on April 18th, be sure to pull it up. Be sure to blast it in your car speakers, drive. Enjoy it, and when you get to Natural, crank it up to 11 because that's a song that Brooks is most excited for you guys to listen to. So be sure to do it because why not? I'm telling you to do it. It's a good idea, right?
It's great. Yes, for sure. But they're all great, um I'm very excited for the release, and then obviously there's more that will follow it up with, moving forward. It's a part of like it's like a 3-part sort of thing that we're doing. So there's more like we've already gone in for a second session and started tracking the second release that will happen. And we're working on part 3.
So we got part 1, Sweet, coming out on the 18th. We've got part 2 that's being tracked and part 3 that's being worked on. No wonder why this album is only 8 songs long, because there's plenty more to come. It's just in different parts. Wow.
Right. So we're actually creating more music than we ever have, working on more music than we ever have. But like we talked about formats before, the way that we will release it's a bit different. And maybe it's more fun. Maybe it's just it's a bit of that in between of like, hey, we could release albums, but maybe we can waterfall it a bit and really make it last. But at the same time, you're not doing 12 songs. I mean, we're doing 8 here, but the next thing you got 16,
Mm-hmm.
and then even more to come after that. So
Is there an anticipated time for that second part of this to come out, or is that still up in the air?
we got to figure out everything timeline wise exactly. It has a lot to do with touring. It has a lot to do with reaction to this release and kind of seeing how it goes, because in this ever-changing landscape of music, we don't know 100% how it will be received for one song, like based on the songs and how people, how much they care. But then second, that can kind of dictate when it's time to put more out. You don't want to put something out and then immediately cover that up, or in a way move on from it too early. So we have rough timelines, but nothing's locked.
I like that because you're going to go with the flow and just see exactly what's going to work for you guys. You don't have anything super rigid or super set in this day and age, where having that flexibility in terms of when you release stuff is absolutely key. So everyone's just going to have to be anticipating, excited, and just get ready for when Sweet comes out, because we know there's more coming, but we're just going to have to wonder when. That's just the key. I've got one more question for you, Brooks, before I wrap this up. It's something I like to ask every single artist we bring on this podcast as a way for us to get to know more of the great music that you love, and for you to help some more of the great music that you love as well. So I got to limit it to 3 so we don't go overboard. But can you name me 3 bands or artists that you love that you would love to see more people get into right now?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I think the Band Camino is one that I think is doing some really cool stuff uh outside, like kind of fits a little bit within like the scene of music, but is definitely kind of a bit more on the poppier side. And I think it's just so cool to see somebody doing rock and pop the way that they're doing it. Three's tough. I've been listening to a lot of music, but I've been listening to a lot of country music recently.
Plug the country artist then.
Yeah, I mean, like it's typical, like of country, right? To say Morgan Wallen, but like Morgan Wallen's really good, with what, and he's kind of putting out stuff slowly and has a release coming out soon. I don't know what the date is on that, but he's got a pretty extensive record that you could see is set up for release, and he's put out a bunch of singles thus far that I'm pretty excited about. And then past that, like, I don't know if I have another really good one for you. Yeah.
We can stick with 2. That's fine. It's a podcast. There's no rules here. We just go with the flow with whatever it is. The amount of bands that break the 3 limit rule, whether it's go short, mostly go long, but it just happens. It's what we do. So
yeah.
No problem.
Well, it's funny because it's funny because you would think, I think to myself, like, oh, like I'm listening to so much music right now. But you know what's crazy is, like, I'm doing it while I'm working, while I'm whatever else. And like, I don't even go back half the time and check out what it is. I'm saving these, like, all these groups to playlists, and then literally not even going back and looking at the name again. I'm like, or I'm just forgetting the names. I'm really, and I've always been so bad at that. And then when it comes to like questions like that, and you go, oh, but I'm listening to so much music right now, I should have another one for you.
That's why it's like, if I ever get asked that question, if I'm doing something like this, I'm like, okay, let me turn my head, because I got a whole board here of bands that I'm either bringing to the podcast or trying to bring to the podcast. I can just pick 3 off of here, just open up my little Excel spreadsheet of the entire history of this podcast, all the guests, just filtered a random 3, boom, there you go. So yeah, I can always do something like that if I wanted to.
There is another one that I think is really cool and promising. The Paradox is a band that doesn't have much music out at all. Maybe they have 1 song, maybe they're 2 up. That I think, like, definitely has like that X factor about them, and I'm excited to see where their career goes. But that's like a real, like, new up and coming type artist that I think people should check out. I think you can actually hear much more of what they do, their socials, than you can on Spotify or Apple Music. There's not much up there.
Dang. Well, that's a great 3 right there that you just brought up. So glad we kept talking about it, because we got that third out of you. And Brooks, I want to thank you for taking the time to be on the Chord Progression Podcast. I really appreciate it. But I'm going to close the episode out with 3 things. First things first, everybody, Mayday Parade is releasing their new album Sweet on April 18th. And there's going to be more to come after that. They're going to be going on tour for the 3 Cheers for 20 Years tour, right, to support the album. So here's what you're going to do to make sure you're following along with the band. Go to Script from the Podcast, where it says find Mayday Parade online. Links, labels for everything, for socials, YouTube, where you can stream the music, where you can buy merch, where you can get tickets to go see and play live. All that's going to be down there. I'm going to link it. I'm going to label it, so you don't have to do any work except click the link and go. I got you covered, so don't let me down. Don't let Brooks down. Don't let Mayday Parade down. Now it's time for number 2, Brooks. Whenever a guest on the podcast, I enjoy having the podcast, I tend to make a certain promise as a way to say thank you. I appreciate you taking the time, and I wish you continue to support the band in the future. Out of all my years, I still have yet to see Mayday Parade live, so I have to start this out as when. When I get to see you perform live for the first time. It's going to happen. I just don't know a day or time. I will come and find you. I will come and say hello to you, but that's not the real promise. The real promise is first round's on me.
Awesome. I appreciate it, Kevin. Thank you. Thanks for having me on.
You're welcome. And now it's time for number 3. I cannot end this by saying goodbye. That's way too final. I would love to be back on again in the future, because it was a great conversation. Beyond that, though, I made you a promise. I got to keep that promise. Goodbye? Nah. I'll see you later.
All right, Kevin. We'll see you later.
Well, folks, my interview with Brooks from Mayday Parade. Now it's time for Kevin's final thought. 20 years as a band, 20 years together. And this band has conquered so much. I mean, when you think about emo music, especially in the late 2000s, early 2010s, and pop punk, Mayday Parade comes forward. I think I had a friend once say that Mayday Parade was the band that invented depression for millennials. And I just kind of laughed at that, because their music really hits on some of those more emotional topics as well. But reflecting back on 20 years as a band with Brooks, that was something that was really special even for myself because, look, I've known about Mayday Parade pretty much since their inception. I haven't really been as closely connected with them as maybe some other bands that I've been really liking. Like, I'm just looking at the Rise Against posters right now above my desk. Nice. But you see the mass amounts of changes that happen, and it's all on the artist that can adapt to those changes in music delivery and music just constraints and what ends up being the best way to get your music out there while still keeping true to their art and to their integrity. That's what Mayday Parade has done. And yeah, you maybe think, oh, maybe Mayday Parade's not as big as they once were. Oh, maybe Mayday Parade could be bigger. They've been a band for 20 years and they're going out and they're going to be playing venues on that 3 Cheers for 20 Years tour that are going to be 4 Calvin Cap rooms. Like, this is not a small thing. So seeing them still make music today and still make music that fits in with exactly, what you would expect from a core Mayday Parade song and expands and sound like a song like By the Way and Towards You. Yeah, that's what you got. It's going to be good. I want to thank Brooks for coming on the podcast. If you want to check out more Mayday Parade, and especially Sweet when it comes out on April 18th, along with the 3 Cheers for 20 Years tour, go to script of the podcast, which says Find Mayday Parade online. Link symbols are going to be there for everything. Be sure to also subscribe to us on the Chord Progression Podcast right down here if you're on YouTube. Hit the follow or subscribe button on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Hit the like button on these episodes as well because it'll help push in the algorithm. Follow us Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, links below as well. Thank you, Brooks. Can't wait to do this again. Hopefully. I've been doing this for 6 years. Hopefully it doesn't take another 6 years. On that note, that's what you Thank you for watching, listening to the Chord Progression Podcast. My name is Kevin, and you guys know how I end every single one. I'm big, healthy, and hearty. See ya!